What's up, everybody? It's Jeffrey Lyles, welcoming you to another edition of Lyles Figure Files. I'm wearing my Marvel Zombies t-shirt because I figured it was the most fitting based on my subject for today. The mold that just won't die. It keeps getting reanimated and brought back out to us, even though there are better options, there are better choices. But it seems like Hasbro's turning the corner, so I have a few suggestions on which ones that use this mold most immediately need to get an upgrade. So let's get into it. Of course, I'm talking about the iconic Bucky Cap. Now, this originated back in 2011. That's a long time ago. This is when Hasbro initially took over the Marvel Legends line from Toy Biz. And we think fondly back on what Toy Biz did, or at least a lot of collectors, but they only had the line for 4 years, which is crazy. One of the initial waves that Hasbro did when they took over was this Build-A-Figure Arnim Zola wave. And there's a lot to go. This is definitely them trying to figure their way out. We had the Dakin on the Bullseye mold. We had Phantom X, seems okay. Madam Hydra, not so great. Spider-Man here in his white, I think this is Fantastic Four outfit. Then we have Drax the Destroyer. Thunderball, who desperately needs an upgrade. He looks like the Build-A-Figure in this entire wave. He's so massive and just so ridiculously out of scale. And then there's finally Bucky Cap. Now, this one, I feel like this was clearly the mold that Hasbro felt most satisfied. They were like, hey, I think we've got a winner here. And in a lot of ways, was the winner, especially considering what Hasbro was pumping out for the Marvel Legends at that time. Let's run through the good of the Bucky Cap mold. So, this is the, of course, the first figure to use this. I didn't even get it because I didn't like it. I wasn't necessarily sure if I dug the new Avengers storyline. Of course, now I've got the upgrade, so I'm wrong. But here you go. This is a really solid figure. Yeah, maybe the shoulders could be up a little bit higher, but I'm not going to go 2024 sensibilities, the 2011 figure. Now, it's also got hinged torso articulation. That's solid for a little matrix action. The waist also turns, so it's not one or the other. That's really cool. Bicep articulation, double jointed arms, elbows here, wrist swivel. So this figure has really everything that you'd want for a smooth, solid Captain America or generic any kind of regular guy figure. Now, over the years, Hasbro started reusing it. It was their default. All right, this is a regular character. Let's have him with this mold, to the point where it was like, my collection has so many Bucky Cap figures. I don't know what to do. I mean, I do know what to do. Hope and pray that some of them will get upgraded. There are a few that I'm fine with the Bucky Cap mold. But over time, there were some problems that started to develop as they used this mold over and over again. Namely, this torso section started to have a gap. Now, Bucky Cap's not showing it here, but a lot of figures I have a little gap between this section here and the lower torso. The knees got a little gimpy. The ankles also were slight. And you notice one of the major problems with this Bucky Cap mold, the short feet, which meant the Bucky Cap figures tended to be the most egregious shelf fallers on my display in most cases. They were the top heavy figures, but these Bucky Cap figures were notorious in terms of falling over because of their teeny tiny little feet. So I'm going to go do the Floyd Mayweather gif, and I'm going to just show you a portion of the figures I have that use a Bucky Cap mold, and it's like a lot. It's ridiculous, and clearly some of them need to be upgraded. So let's start with this guy here, Spy Master, number one. Let's go with Goliath, coming at you again. Taskmaster, there you go. Gonna keep this rolling. Machine Man. I don't think he's necessarily terrible, but I mean, all these figures could use the better, superior articulation, and not still using a figure from 2011. The Hellfire Club Goon, back at it again. We got Jamie Madrox, a figure that a lot of people are showing off right now that they have a complete X Factor version 2. Then we've got Blizzard, and he is one of my geez, he's so floppy. He is one of my this is what's wrong with the Bucky Cap mold. He's just so beat down because it's been used, overused, then back and then again. Hydra Soldier, Shield Agent. That's kind of fitting that they're using it, right? Then we've got Eel. He's not terrible with the mold, but again, there are better options. And then I don't know what the plural of Cyclops would be, but let's say Cyclope. So we've got the House of X, we got X Factor version 2, and we've got this terrible Age of Apocalypse version. So that's 3 there. Union Jack, he's got the mold, he's got the power. And another X Factor member using the Bucky Cap mold, it's Havoc squared. So cry Havoc twice. Just don't cry me a river. Then we've got figures that probably should not have used this, considering they're better molds. And these figures are recent. Doc Spectrum on that Squadron Supreme set. Now you can see probably really well here this gap in the back, and it doesn't go on the front side, but I mean this gap issue was such a problem with more of these figures as time went on. And then probably the most egregious one, because he just came out, look deeply into his eye, the eye of the orb, and ask him why is he still using the Bucky Cap mold. So he's just, I don't understand. Fortunately, the good folks at Hasbro have come up with a solution that it finally makes a better default figure one that we can be proud to have as our main. All right, this is the mold you're going to use all the time for all these figures. And that's this guy, Vulcan. So we've got the Bucky Cap mold. Now we're in the Vulcan mode era. And Vulcan has really great articulation. He's solid. He's just, let me just randomly pick a figure. Oh, let's go with his brother, who, I mean, you can just see like the difference. Now, what's gone on over the years is Hasbro has sneakily started scaling up their figures. So this is how Bucky Cap, your normal basic figure, looks next to Vulcan. So you can see there's some interesting height discrepancy. Vulcan's much wider, thicker in the torso, beefier legs. So the whole thing is just thicker. And as a general generic guy, this is a better one. And that's not even including the awesome butterfly shoulders, really smooth articulation, peep the lack of pinless joints now. So there's another aspect for those of you who like that kind of thing. So Vulcan can do it all. I mean, this figure is really smooth and is a really nice action figure. I mean, he's just really well done, well engineered, and they're already starting to do those improvements using this mold. Now, here are some, and some of my favorite characters have finally gotten an upgrade from the Bucky Cap mold, and I so appreciate it. Let's take a look at one of my biggest wants to get an upgrade, and that's T'Challa. T'Challa. So there's 2 figures using that Bucky Cap mold, and of course, it makes sense. If you have one using this, you don't need to go to the Spider-Man UK book all of a sudden. But you can just see how much better this figure looks. I mean, the butterfly shoulders mean so much to a character like T'Challa, but I mean, every figure would benefit from having butterfly shoulders, just a wider torso. And you note that even though this figure's wider, doesn't have that slim hourglass figure, so you can see that torso's thicker here. He's not gigantic. He kind of matches up pretty well with this Black Panther figure. And the legs still solid, thick, but they're not so overly muscular. And the boots work smoother. It's just an overall better looking figure. Let's go on to another one who also appreciates this upgrade. My boy Cyclops. So here's the love triangle version. Here's the original Build-A-Figure. Hey, we got the X-Men again. Cyclops. Pretty sure that was the Juggernaut wave too. But here you go. And or maybe it's a Caliban wave. But you can see just how much smoother this version looks. I mean, the torso doesn't look so ridiculously like every portion of the body's a muscle. So it's smoother on that end. The tights aren't so like narrow. Still got room to maneuver and all that good stuff. The thighs look better, more proportion. Boots, solid. Arms, you can see we've got this more noticeable kind of ball joint with the shoulder. This is a little bit more streamlined. So it just looks so much better. One more to show you. Here's Hawkeye using the Bucky Cap mold. And this is so much better. Just in so many different ways. This is not the Vulcan mold, but you can just see the improvement going off of this Bucky Cap mold to something that makes more sense. And that, dear viewer, is why I'm here right now, trying to go over some options in terms of all these Bucky Cap figures. Which ones need the most immediate upgrade? Now, all of them do, maybe not all of them. I'm okay with goon figures like the Hydra soldier, even to the same extent, the shield trooper, the shield agent, using that mold because they don't need to be super heroic. It's fine if they have a slimmer, slighter buck. And I kind of want to get away from, I like the idea of the civilians, like those regular grunts, not being the same scale, being a little bit shorter than our mutants, our gamma infused heroes, our super soldiers, our guys in a big suit of armor, or just those heroes. I want them to look a little bit different than a shield agent. So which characters need the biggest upgrade right away? I've got 5. I'm sure you all will have some suggestions as well. Maybe not even with characters that I have here. Shaman from Alpha Flight is one that needs it, and I did not bring him here. He's a little bit too high up on the shelf, but let's break them down. Here are my 5 choices for most deserving of an immediate Bucky Cap upgrade. Maybe they use the Vulcan mold, maybe they don't. There are other ones that could work in rotation for some of these characters, but I think the Vulcan mold is the one that would make the most sense for the majority of them. Let's start with this guy, Citizen V. Now, Citizen V has a really nice cape. I think that flows really awesome. The head sculpt is also great. They did some incorporating of those wraps. So you can see that with the gauntlets. That looks good. You can see the belt. That's also done well. But let's get into all the issues with this thing. This guy, outside of using the Bucky Cap mold, his costume should be purple, not this dark midnight blue. So that's strike number 1. But this is Baron Zemo. Spoilers for everybody who didn't read Thunderbolts number 1. And they've got a really good mold for Baron Zemo. He looks good. He looks solid. This one is too skinny. It's too small for a guy who's going toe to toe with Captain America. Captain America, not Captain America. Yeah, so I mean, having Cap face off against this kind of small, slender guy just doesn't do it for me. Give him a better mold. Give him that Vulcan mold. Get the colors right. The head sculpt, the cape, the gloves, the boots, I think they can translate over just fine. The belt too, but let's go with the upgrade. Give him the Vulcan mold, and let's call it a day there. I feel like this one is probably a really good bet based on the media attention this look has gotten and the fact that I think the Marvel team is really into this era. Cyclops. Now, this is from the Dark Phoenix set, and I know a lot of you all have been clamoring for an upgrade on this one too, but this upgrade absolutely must have the shading. You can see it here. It looks so great on this figure, and this is definitely one where I need it to look basically just like this, just on the Vulcan mold. You can see, I think, the gap. There you go. You can see right through that piece of the torso. That's one of those areas I was talking about where Bucky Cap molds were starting to wear down and deteriorate. You can see on him, he's also got a gimpy, loose knee. Just throw him on the Vulcan mold. We've already got Cyclops figures that have been upgraded. The Astonishing X-Men version, the Jim Lee figure. Now let's get this one in there. If you guys are really feeling frisky, let's give an update as well for the X Factor version. But that's my cheat one. Not just in terms of Cyclops that need upgrades, this guy first. And I think his role in X-Men 97 definitely helps push that figure along. So I'm more optimistic about him than some others. And then since we're on an X-Men trail, let's just keep it rolling. Archangel. Archangel is an awesome figure. This paint job is amazing. I mean, it looks so good. They engineered those wings beautifully, but the Bucky Cap mold is way too small for this point in time in Warren Worthington the Third's superhero adventurer career. It's too small. And give him the same mold that they've used for the angel figure. I feel like the wing setup would work just the same, and I think these just plug out, so not a big deal. We can just implement them and just put them on the back of the angel figure. Give them maybe a new head sculpt, although I do think this one's pretty solid. It might need to be a bit bigger, sized up some because the old one might be too small, but it's really intense. And I love the color scheme with this hot pink, neon, shiny reflective material off the blue. So I really like the figure, and I like him so much more if he got an upgrade because he really needs it. Now, which one are my final two? This is 2 and 1, whichever way I want to go with this. Let's go with this guy first. Batroc. Batroc is a big dude. He's another Captain America villain. He's all about attacking with his feet. So, the Bucky Cap mold can handle that with no problem. But let's take a look at how Vulcan looks next to Batroc. Batroc is tall, beefier. He's thicker than Captain America. So you can see here, this guy just doesn't cut it. I mean, he looks real small next to Vulcan in my unofficial finger scale here. So, I mean, this is just not feeling it. Batroc, again, has really great colors. They just need to do the whole thing all over again. This deep, rich purple, and then this orange, the pearlescent orange they've got going. Head sculpt's awesome, but he needs a bigger figure. And he's one where when I start posing him next to all these really amazing Captain America figures they put out, it doesn't look like a fair fight anymore. It's like Cap should whoop the floor with this dude. So he needs an upgrade. And finally, we got Karnak. And yeah, I mean, he really reinforced the need for an upgrade to Black Bolt. Black Bolt, big, thick. You can see the torso gap, I believe. There you go. You can see it right there. So, I mean, he's got a problem with that. He's too small. He is just way too small. Karnak is taller than him. And I think they figured out a way to implement these wings a little bit better, do what they did with Banshee. And he looks okay on his own, but he is too tiny next to anyone. Black Bolt is a big heroic character. He's the king of Adelan, and he's the ruler of the humans. He looks too chump and too puny. This guy deserves a thicker, bigger figure that stands up a little bit more prominently against these other ones. So, these guys are actually interacted, Vulcan and Black Bolt. So you can see, there you go, just how tiny he looks next to Vulcan. Again, he's looking up. I have Vulcan kind of stoop down a tad. But I mean, this is just, he shouldn't be looking up to this guy. It is so frustrating because it's like, oh man, he doesn't look nearly as formidable as Vulcan, who is a really nice figure. And I could see them using that mold really quickly, throwing on some new wings. And there you go. Got a good head sculpt. This one is really well done. He is really not trying to get focused. All right, there you go. He's just not. There we go. Finally figured it out. So he's cool. He just needs an upgrade. And so those are my 5. For those of you trying to keep track at home, Black Bolt, the John Byrne, Dave Cockrum, Cyclops, Batroc, Archangel. But there's so many Bucky Cap mold using figures. Here is just a small portion of them, and they all could use an upgrade. Happily take the Bucky Cap, the Vulcan mold for these guys, because this time, I'm not in the habit of, oh, you already done a figure, let's get a redo. But the Bucky Cap was done in 2011. It's 2024 and beyond. There are a number of characters, as I've shown, that would benefit greatly from this upgraded body, thicker, wider, more articulation, pinless joints, and it's just an upgrade from everything we've got so far with these previous figures. The Bucky Cap mold more than did its job getting Hasbro to a stable base for average figures. Now we've got this one. It's time to crank out as many figures as possible using this superior mold so we can use our butterfly shoulders, have them do some cool stuff. And there's a ton of figures that need this upgrade. Let me know which ones you want to see that use this Bucky Cap mold and which ones you want to see improved right away. Got my 5. Let's hear yours. As always, thank you so much for watching. This episode of Loud's Figure Files has been filed.